There's a myth being spun all over the US and around the wealthy parts of the European Union, France, Britain, and Germany, that the independence of Kosovo is a great accomplishment is a victory for democracy and a successful accomplishment of US foreign policy. These, in the words of Senator Hillary Clinton. Well, that's not exactly the case. But it may be the case depending if you come from a completely different perspective. Lots of people all over the world, in different parts of the world, are asking themselves, okay, if Kosovo can do it, why not us? I'll give you a very, very short list. That includes Flanders in Belgium, northern Cyprus, the Serbian Republic of Bosnia, the Basque country in Spain, Gibraltar, Indian Kashmir, Tibet, Abkasia and South Ossetia, which are both in Georgia and they are both Russian friendly, and Kurdistan. Why they can't do it? It's very simple. Because the whole soap opera involving the unilateral and illegal independence of Kosovo, immediately applauded by the US and by the three European Union giants, is directly related to two key themes: oil and the expansion or the worldwide empire of US military bases. This means in detail the AMBO oil pipeline and Camp Bond steel. They are totally interrelated. The AMBO pipeline, Albania, Macedonia, Bulgarian oil, which is an entity registered in the US, a pipeline that is worth $1.1 billion since 1995 actually. This whole thing started like 13 years ago with a feasibility study for a very important pipeline in the Balkans. This was 4 years before the 78-day illegal unilateral bombing of Yugoslavia by NATO, but basically orchestrated by the Clinton administration. This feasibility study, and then there was another feasibility study conducted in 1999 itself, was by a British subsidiary of Halliburton. This is when Dick Cheney was the CEO of Halliburton. Camp Bond steel is also directly related to AMBO pipeline because Camp Bond steel was built by KBR, which is a Halliburton company as well. It's the biggest US military base built since the Vietnam War. In fact, military types always are joking that there are only two man-made structures that can be visible from the moon: Great Wall of China and Camp Bond steel. The AMBO oil pipeline essentially having to go through Kosovo and Macedonia. This implied that the US, or at least NATO, had to control that area. So this was one of the main objectives for the 1999 bombing of Yugoslavia.
The 1999 UN Security Council Resolution 1244 guarantees a commitment of all member states to sovereignty and territorial integrity of the Federal Republic of Yugoslavia, and reaffirms the call for substantial autonomy and meaningful self-determination for Kosovo. Not everyone is interpreting this the same way. Serbia says that Kosovo's declaration of independence is a flagrant violation of 1244, and Russia calls it a blatant breach of international law. The US representative to the UN said, "The Declaration of Independence is fully consistent with 1244, and the fact that so many countries had recognized Kosovo on the first day had made it an irreversible fact."
Well, this is a very dangerous precedent because if ignoring a UN Security Council resolution makes it an irreversible fact, what is the point of UN Security Council resolutions? That it is back to the old-fashioned kind of power politics. My interpretation of 1244 is that it does not include independence as an option within that framework, and indeed it seemed to make a lot more sense for Kosovo to enjoy the status of the Iraqi Kurds or the Taiwanese who even for those of us who believe that morally they have a right to independence, recognize that they essentially had that already, and by making a formal declaration as such and having this kind of recognition by foreign powers can destabilize the region and create a very dangerous precedent, which would very likely cause far more problems than a compromise, a solution might have done.
Does this set a precedent for the U.S. or Russia or anybody to recognize any group as a nation just for their own convenience or national interests?
It could be. I actually was talking to some young Georgian activists who led the movement against Shevardnadze in that former Soviet republic. These are Western-leaning, pro-democratic people, and they are very upset at the independence of Kosovo because they believe that the Russians could retaliate by recognizing South Ossetia, which is an autonomous region within Georgia where Russia has a lot of influence. I've heard similar concerns from elsewhere. This is one of the reasons, of course, that Spain has broken with other Western European countries, because they obviously have concerns about autonomous regions within their country. So indeed, this could be a very dangerous precedent.
A call for independence has seen in the southern Basque region over 800 deaths at the hands of the armed Basque separatist group ETA. The organisation's political wing, banned in Spain, is legal in France.
The fight for the culture and language of the Basque country will never stop.
This man says he's been in trouble with the police for separatist activities and was unwilling to show his face on camera.
Why do we want to separate? Because of the police repressions. We protect our language, we protect our land and our culture. Our rights are 7 provinces, and it's necessary that they unite.
It could indeed be a kind of Pandora's box. It could indeed be something that could lead to other attempts at secession and recognition and recognition by retaliation and the like, which could lead to instability and violence and well beyond just the Balkans.
These people live in Bosnia and also want to break away, like Kosovo.
We have more reasons to declare independence in Kosovo. Albanians are just an ethnic minority in Serbia, while Serbs living in Bosnia constitute a whole republic.
Bosnia is occupied by Western forces now. The West say they're friends, but they bombed us here and in Serbia. They've stolen Kosovo from us, and I'm against it. I won't accept any foreign soldiers in my country, except Russians.
Bosnia was divided into the Serb Republic and the Muslim Croat Federation.
According to statistics, 98 out of 100 people here support the idea of a referendum and wish for a united state of Serbs, which would be the most stable state in the region.
Vestimir Popovic believes that whether it takes 1, 10 or 100 years, the Serb Republic will eventually join Serbia. It's just a matter of time.
So we need to be following this very, very closely. Russia and China and Venezuela and Bolivia and quite a number of countries have refused to recognize this fraudulent declaration of independence, this recognition by the U.S. But let me read you this statement from Russia. This is an AP statement saying from Russia's NATO ambassador that the Russian military might get involved if all the European Union nations recognize Kosovo as independent without UN agreement. Russia will proceed from the assumption that to be respected, we have to use brute military force. And it means that this could quickly become an international crisis. It's such blatant lawlessness. And many, many countries in the world who feel that the U.S. role is to break up and pull apart and rip apart nation states that have been struggled so hard for their sovereignty and development. That's what's going on in Iraq today, and we can see it. And Evo Morales, in making a statement from Bolivia, said right now the U.S. is targeting 3 of the richest provinces of Bolivia and threatening to recognize their quote, sovereignty, and therefore they feel very threatened by this recognition of Kosovo. So this is, how big wars and all kinds of things unthread and take place. Yugoslavia, Serbia, Kosovo, Croatia, what's behind all of this? And it's very important to understand that just as the war against Iraq was a war of colonial occupation, massive theft, all-out war against the population, so was a war to break up the Yugoslav Federation. It's resulted in now 9 years of direct U.S. NATO occupation. One other reason why the U.S. may be so determined to grab a hold and assert this kind of colonial rule in Kosovo is the largest U.S. military base built in Europe in decades is Camp Bondsteel in Kosovo. It's on the really vital oil transit routes. It is more than 1,000 acres, 300 buildings, and it's just one of the bases.